Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where we talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Fear the Walking Dead Season 8, Episode 2. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So we start off with June, which is kind of a wild situation, and then we see like, oh cool, so she not only goes around, she doesn't kill the Padre people, it's specifically the collectors. She goes around and she takes their fingers, and I was like, that's interesting. And then I started thinking, I was like, where's the taking fingers? Why does that seem so familiar? I was like, all right, Sam from Van Helsing, the TV show. I was like, right, fingers was his thing. Like all his victims, he took their fingers. Difference is he killed the people and took their fingers. That's not the case with June. And you're like, what happened to you, June? And to the point she wants to be so isolated, which I mean, the thing is, and I think this is a key part of this episode, knowing like what we know about June, what we've always known about June. June's been the runner. That's been a part of her. Ever since her daughter died, she's been running. I think probably even before then she did, but she had extra motivation to run after her daughter died. And so she's always been moving around, and that's a key part of this story and her character, but we'll get to that soon enough. But the moment that guy Adrian found her, he's like part of a group that's building up like an anti-Padre situation. Because like, obviously Padres existed pre these eight. So like, it makes you wonder when did, because obviously we know, obviously we got introduced to the Padre stuff. Was that was last season we got introduced to the Padre stuff. So, but we have no idea how long this Padre stuff has been active in the grand scheme of this world. I mean, once again, like I said, if the show is caught up with like the main timeline of like, once again, this is supposed to be like 12 years after the fall, like, have they been active the entire time? Only some of it? Does this have any connection to the CR, or is the CR still its own thing and Padres its own thing? You would assume there'd be some collaboration, but to be fair, like there are so many large scale communities that have absolutely nothing to do with each other. It's like, let them do their thing. We're going to do our thing, because probably if we go after that community, it's probably going to be, I mean, because Padres so under the radar, like the only reason why they even know about Padre is because of Alicia. So, and that's just because she ended up being with like, wasn't that guy like a senator or something, like where Alicia learned about all of that? So I don't know. So there's that element to it. So, but we don't know how long Padre in this post fall world of like the world of The Walking Dead, how long they've been active. So either way, when it's all said and done, June meets a guy named Adrian, which that actor, I'm like, I've seen you in something. It feels like super recently. He's one of those actors where you're like, man, you have a familiar face. I've seen you in stuff, and it feels like there was something super recent I've seen you in, but I don't remember what it is off the top of my head. But this guy's looking for his daughter, Hannah, and June wants nothing to do with it. So it's like, okay, well, we know that the boat people, everyone that was on the boats last season got caught up in Padre, especially, it's been 8 years, so was June's connection all this. She's still doing her thing. She's cutting off fingers. And then she goes after another group. Turns out it's Sherry and Dwight. And the moment we see the kid, I'm like, that has to be their kid. I mean, once again, it's been like 8 years. And sadly, the kid's name is Finch. He doesn't know about them. I think Padre knows about Sherry being Finch's mom, but they have no... So, like, Sherry was able to kind of manipulate things to be like, hey, I want to be able to... Because they want to keep family members away from their children as much as possible, because they don't want to make the parents tempted to turn against Padre trying to save their kids, you know? Which, on some level, it's like, you know you're doing something effed up if you even have to think, like, oh, I guess it's like, right, we don't want them to think, like, we don't want to corrupt their thoughts, because, like, hey, we're all moving towards something good. This is a greater goal for the good of the world. And if you're around your kids, you might get it in your head. Your thoughts might get corrupted where you're like, hey, I got to save my kid. I want to be around my kid. It's like, no, we keep everyone separated because it's for the greater good. But it's like, on some level, you know you're effed up for doing that, because then you wouldn't have to worry about keeping the parents separated from their kids. I mean, these are people who are part of Padre, but once again, Padre does what it does. As Madison said, they take what you care about and they use it against you. Like, they use Nick and Alicia against her to do some terrible things. So, that's how you keep the people who work with Padre motivated. But obviously, like, the people outside of Padre are not about that. Hence why Adrian's part of a group that's anti-Padre. But June wants nothing to do with it. Like, I forgot the point I was making. It was obviously it's tied to like Dwight and Sherry. So like she was able to probably manipulate things, like I don't know if like she was able to get like her shift changed to something else. Like she was able to shift over from what her job, because she works in the nursery, so she was able to get this job without probably like, at least she was probably either like Padre doesn't know what she was up to by like switching jobs with someone else and not have to worry about it. Because Dwight's able to do it because they don't know the connection between Dwight and Finch. They don't know that Dwight's the father. So by hiding that detail, he could be around Finch because he's actually the one training all the kids, which means I don't even know if he knows that he's been training. Well, we don't know if she's officially entered training or not, because like we know Mo has been training with like a friend of hers, so we don't know if like she's gotten to the point where she's taken like lessons from Dwight yet. But maybe she's already got the fundamentals, but at the very least, like Dwight might have also taught her, but we don't quite know yet. Either way, their son has appendicitis, and they were taking him to go to the clinic so he could get his appendix taken out. But obviously, because June kind of destroyed the boat, it's like, you kind of have to help us. We'll help you. We'll get you a boat and everything. So it should have been clear from the very beginning, like the moment they went to that train, that June had some connection to it, because it's someplace she's familiar with. But even they're like, really? This is where we're having a surgery? She immediately went in there and stabbed the head. Now we know the significance of that, because in the end of the episode, it's like, right. This horror show brings back a lot of memories. I'm like, you're tied to this place or something. And at first, I didn't think that, it didn't cross my head that this place was connected to Padre. I thought this place was connected from like years and years and years ago. Like post her meeting up with Madison and them in season 4. I thought this was post that or something. Like maybe like post, like not post, pre meeting Madison and them, and maybe pre losing her daughter. That's why I thought this place went that far back, but no, it's connected to Padre. And Adrian followed their stuff, went down, because I don't know if he ever fully figured out that Sherry and Dwight were Finch's kids, Finch's parents, because he's like, oh, this is another kid. I'm trying to do what's best for this kid and get him away from these Padre collectors. It's like, right, yeah, but they're motivated to help the kid, because it's like, hey, that's our son. But Sherry and Dwight have been down this route too many times. They've already been down this route before with the sanctuary, and they're like, right, this, like, we thought we were protecting kids, but then they found out about this place and the experiments that they were running. And so it's like, right, it turns out this place was built to try and find a somewhat cure. Once again, very CR-like in its own regards. But yeah, there are people who were bit. This place was meant to try and use radiation to try and cure that. And obviously it's like, right, we sold into the lie that this place would keep people, like, once again, Morgan's still under the impression, like, right, Mo or Ren would be okay, it's safe in this place. It's like, that's not the case. Like, obviously these kids are being trained to be soldiers. Yes, you need to be trained to be able to prepare yourself from this world, but like, these are soldiers that are supposed to kind of bring in the new world order to some extent. That's what Padre's all about. I wonder if it's Padre, the head Padre themselves. I'm wondering, are they in a similar situation? Did they lose a child and that's what's motivating this? Like, it feels like it's too, like it is that psychopathy of history repeating itself. What was done to you, you're going to do to other people type of situation, which, you know, obviously we see that with Sherry and Dwight as collectors. Same thing for Morgan. So it is this situation. It feels like that psychopathy is what I'm trying to say, where it feels like Padre probably went through the same thing and was probably a parent that lost their child and is trying to help no other parent feel that pain. But it's like, right, you got to make that sacrifice for the greater good of your child, because no child should die before their parent. Every child should outlive their parents. Their parents should be the one that dies first. But we've seen how that's kind of played out in so many regards, especially in this universe, especially when you think back to how this, like, early Fear the Walking Dead, think about, like, Travis and Chris and his mom, like, losing his mom, how that put him on his path and how he ended up dying. Then later on, Travis ended up dying. Like, that entire family, like, ended up dead. I mean, obviously, like, Madison and maybe Alicia are the only ties and connection to that family unit that are still alive. So, I mean, hell, let's going down the route of losing children. I mean, it's like, well, John Dory Sr. lost his son, never, his son was never back in his life before, Junior died. Grace lost Athena. June lost her daughter. Like, it's been like, it almost feels like that's why this season is the way what it is. Like, the storyline is what it is, because that has been a prevalent enough thing in this universe, but more specifically in this series out of any series about like losing children has been so prominent throughout this show. Because even Daniel lost his daughter. Because I was trying to remember, I was like, there's at least one more example and I can't think of it. I mean, a lot of people have lost people, but people losing their children has, like I said, been a prominent theme throughout. So I think that's why this being the final season and what it's all about is meant to kind of capitalize on that running theme since throughout this entire series. It's been a running theme. And I just, off the top of my head, I mean, it was there in The Walking Dead because obviously, Rick lost Carl, but it's like, I'm trying to think. Has it ever really come up again? Like I said, there have been, sadly, kids that have died, but I don't think to the extent like it has been in Fear. But either way, so that's why like that motivation of like, all right, we got to protect our children. Like, that's every parental, like, decent people, like, will like have that protective need of their children. So for Sherry and Dwight, it's like this needs to be our, like, we need to get away from Padre. We were willing to sacrifice everything because we thought, hey, our children would be safe. Now we see what Padre is all about, running experiments like this, treating people like experiments. It's like, no, we can't be a part of that. It reminds them too much of like, how much are we willing to sacrifice? Because we went through so much. It broke us. It destroyed us because of the whole, sanctuary situation with Negan. So it's like we can't go back to like something like that again. We already bought into that for so many years, and we bought into this for so many years, but at least now we have the opportunity, we have the extra motivation to get out because of Finch. And so, because now they see, I mean, just like Sanctuary was, I mean, I don't know if that was built on the lie that Padre is, because Sanctuary was just like, yo, Negan was the monster he is, you have to fall in line. And I guess it's kind of like a cult. You kind of got sucked in, there was no way out. Same thing in this, but at least they're not fully brainwashed. There was ample motivation to kind of stick it out, essentially. Whereas the Sanctuary thing, it was like, you're in too deep, too much trauma, too much pain associated with, you can't run away. But for Sherry, it's like, right, the stupid car freshener thing. For her, it's like, to me, the fact that you were willing to bring that to try and make Finch feel better, it's like, to me, that shows that we still have a chance. We can be a family. We're not too far gone. But when they get trapped in one of the train cars, they ask June, like, to take care of their son, but she can't do it because she doesn't want to be responsible for another person. I thought it was purely motivated because, yeah, she's been down the route where she's lost a daughter. Let's not also forget, she also lost her husband. She lost her father-in-law. So it's like, yeah, like, a lot of that would be sticking with you, which it is there, but because even Adrian's like, yo, like, you can't just go throughout your life because you're afraid to get close to someone. Understandable, you've lost people. I mean, we've seen what losing people can do to you. We saw what happened to Morgan until he met Eastman, like, he was lost. And even then, like, he's still kind of, I mean, we've seen those characters who've been lost. Oh yeah, I literally was about to forget with Carol. Carol lost her own daughter, then, like, she lost those two later on, like her and, was it Tyrese? Sasha's brother, like, they were looking after those kids. I'd forgotten. I let those slip my mind for a second there. But it's like, yeah, because I was about to say, like, Morgan kind of had his journey, just like Carol was kind of lost for a bit, too, so. But either way, June being so motivated, like, no, I'm going to save their parents, because also it's like, these are friends of mine and I don't want them to die, but also I can't be responsible for the kid. The moment June went through that car and she started looking at all of those walkers, I was like, this was your idea, wasn't it? That's all I needed, was because she was staring at her own ghost. Because she had made it seem like, hey, there's some strife that was behind all of this. I was like, you made up that person. It's you, isn't it? And I mean, we end up finding out there is a strife, but the reason why I immediately was like, this is June's, like, baby, this is, because I was like, she didn't run away as quickly as she made it sound. Because obviously she hasn't been around Sherry and Dwight. The entire group has been separated because she was like, wait, this is your son, like, because she didn't even know like Sherry had given birth and stuff like that. So they hadn't been around each other in that time frame. The whole group was split up. They're all working different jobs, code names, and away from each other, because the last thing you wanted is that group that kind of came in together to kind of, still be like rally together. So not unless there's remnants of that group that are part of that anti-Padre movement that we just don't know about, because there could be people from the group that escaped and ended up joining the anti-Padre group for all we know. But this also goes back to what I was bringing up at the very beginning. June lies a lot. So the moment like we saw that, I was like, June lied. Like she was probably around a lot longer, because she made it sound like the moment the experiment started, she ran. I was like, not only is she behind the experiment, she stuck around a lot longer than she made it seem like it. So I was like, geez, June. Once again, it's like, that's always been a part of that character. So once again, she's always been running for so long, for so many years, and she's kind of been lying along the way. When Madison and them met her, she lied. Obviously, when it came to John, he lied. I mean, when it came to June, she lied to him on multiple, when they first met, and then she ended up running. And then, John, and I was about to say, like, even like, for a long time, that kind of disappeared until John Sr. And then and that was even last season, she lied again to kind of keep them where they were, because she's lost so much. Once again, like the most recent one being John Sr., at least that we were aware of. But it turns out, with Adrian's help and Finch's help, we're able to rescue Sherry and Dwight, and they want to get Finch away from all of this the moment that he's done with his the appendectomy. But Adrian finds his daughter Hannah, and now we know why June wanted him not to follow, because she knew like Hannah was there. The moment she saw the picture, she recognized Hannah, probably heard the name and was like, it can't be. And seeing the picture was that's what probably motivated her even more. Like, I gotta get back out there. And we found out the heart of all this. Once again, this was all June's business, and it was strife. There is a strife, but the whole thought of using radiation was her idea, because I can only assume it's because of Alicia, because Alicia survived for so long without turning. It's like, right, so she tried to help using that because she found someone she could care about. It was like, right, it was probably like a second chance almost with her daughter. But the problem is with the radiation, it was too much radiation, and it took its toll and made things worse for Hannah. But before she could end Hannah's suffering, Strife wanted her to change. So it's like, right, so you can see how long, because it's like, all right, let's see how long the radiation puts off the transformation into a walker, or a carrion, as they call them. And that's why Hannah's still in the state that she's in, because it's just one large-scale experiment. Once again, comparing the CR, because the CR we know did very extensive experiments like this and stuff as well, trying their attempts to find a cure. That's why I'm almost wondering, like, is there some connection? Is this some offshoot? Or once again, is it just some, like, mad, like, scientist? Because Stripe is definitely, like, the mad scientist here. But we've had those even in like World Beyond with like the CR stuff. So, but either way, the moment like Adrian found out about her, I was like, I knew he was going to die. I was like, there's no way he's sticking around, because his only motivation to live, like as he was telling June to find something else to live for, his reasons for living is gone now. So he's like, I understand why you wanted to be alone. Because for her, it's like, I can't take the chance that I could ever be in a position where someone I care about, I don't want to lose someone I care about again. Like, especially because that's why she kept going. Because Strife was like, yeah, as long as my trigger finger is on this gun, you're going to keep doing what I want you to do. And so for her, it's like, my attempt to save someone I care about ended up costing so many other people. Like, my mistake, my choice affected so many other people outside of me, as it kind of has sadly time and time again. But Adrian ends up killing himself and obviously wants his daughter to be the one that, like, he's like, I'm so sorry. And he's probably like, if I had done more, if I found you sooner, maybe this wouldn't even be an issue. Because his motivation, she kept him going for years. Because she was 8 when she was taken. And, like, obviously he's like, yeah, she'd be 12 now. For 4 years, he kept him going. And it's like, if, that blame of, like, if I had done something different, maybe I could have saved her. So Sherry and Dwight, they're going to take Finch, and they want to bring June, because June is family. She always has been family. And especially for Dwight, it's like, if it wasn't for you and John, I wouldn't be alive. and I wouldn't have the family I am now. And you can be a part of that too if you want to. And for her, it's having been alone for so long, it has chipped away at you. And it's just like, right, you know, because she's been in that situation where her mistakes have kind of haunted her time and time again. But this could be kind of another fresh start. But Shrike shows up. I would have never expected that woman. Like I said, I think she was. I think she was. I was first familiar with that actress because of Teen Wolf. Like I said, I think she's the Banshee that Lydia first got introduced to, the other Banshee that Lydia got introduced to, and like would eventually see her from time to time inside her head, like post that character dying or getting killed. So, but I would have never expected her to be Shrike. And it's like, well, she is somewhat of importance because she is the one that kept coming back to draw Madison's blood and stuff like that. So she had to be someone important. But I was like, right, so you're the mad scientist in this situation, in this series, in this arc, you know? And so she's forcing June's hands. It's like, right, we got to continue the experiment because of what Padre wants. Padre does want to make these children safe, and the way we do that is by making a cure. But it's like, we're not making a cure, we're just like hurting people. It's like, yeah, but only because you didn't get to finish your work. So I'm going to give you the motivation you need. And so, two things. One, I didn't talk about it, but like, right, now we know what the finger thing was about because she took Shrike's trigger finger, and now that's her way of stopping the collectors. It's like, right, I find your dominant hand, and I'm going to take your trigger finger. For one, it's meant to be a middle finger to Shrike and all the Padre stuff, because Padre's the one that greenlit all of this. So it's meant to be a middle finger to them, but also to any collectors out there. I'm going to take your fingers so that you won't be able to like use them. Like, it is her way of kind of like, in her own way, it's her retribution, but that's also how that's how Shrike found her, because it's like, right, the moment I found out about these people's fingers getting taken, because she's probably been going for like probably a while, but the finger thing seems like fairly recent, because like those fingers, there's not a lot of fingers, but there's quite a few fingers in those jars, so it's not like she's been doing this like that entire time. Because once again, we don't know when she officially got away from Shrike. Like, enough that a lot of those people in those cars are probably experiments, people that she undoubtedly ended up sadly doing all that to, doing the radiation to and all that. She could have been doing it for months, and then she ran away 7 years ago, or it could have been only like a few years ago she ran away. You know, we have no idea. But also, the other thing is the device she used to turn bite Finch, and the Walker, of course, they were going to use Adrian's severed head for it. But now it makes sense, once again, the moment she went in there, why she stabbed that Walker that was in that device. Like I said, it comes full circle. You're like, now you understand why, because that was used so many times by Shrike, and maybe specifically by her because Shrike like forced her hand. But now it's like Finch is dying, and he's going to turn if June doesn't continue what she needs to do. And it's like, right, Sherry and Dwight, it's like she owes it to them to save him, you know. So, and also now June lost her trigger finger. I wonder who's going to do it. Is it going to be Dwight, or it needs to be June? But because Dwight's like, oh, I'm going to kill you, Shrike. I'm going to kill you. But it's like, it's definitely going to end up being June, and she's probably going to be training her other. I don't know if it's going to be both her fingers, because I'm sure it's only like, right, the finger, your trigger finger being like your dominant hand that you shoot with. I don't think June's ambidextrous, so it could be a thing of she might eventually have to train her other finger if they don't end up cutting off both of them. Because she did say like, oh, probably to make sure that you never train your other hand to shoot, like we'll probably take both your fingers, both your index finger, both your trigger fingers. So that sucks. Then we also get the ending where Madison and Morgan are talking inside. What is in your past? What pain is motivating you? It's pain that you can't let go, Morgan, that motivates you. And he talked about like, right, there was something he didn't do, or like a lack of action, which I can only assume that's in reference, especially with the wall and everything that was written on it last episode. It has to be like him refusing to kill his wife, because he never killed his wife. his son ended up going out there. Dwayne went out there one day and ended up getting eaten by his mom in turn. And I think for him, that's why he was like something he mostly can't make right. I don't know if it's in like maybe that's always been a part of his trauma for a very long time. And then like maybe you add in maybe some of the stuff between him and Grace, and now the Mo stuff, and maybe everyone else on the boats and stuff, like a lot of that motivation, a lot of all of that probably, I don't know, because he said it was something he could mostly not make right. So I don't know if that's like I need to eventually find Dwayne and put him down, because I never could kill him or his mom, could maybe even Dwayne somewhere out there as a walker. Maybe that's what that's supposed to be about. He was vague about it. He didn't go into details about it. So that's me making that assumption, but I don't know. But Madison was able to help Morgan get away so that he could try and begin making things right, doing what he needs to do, I guess, like to kind of get past a lot of his trauma. Because it's like, if he's able to save Mo and help Mo, I think, or maybe it isn't what I think it is. Like I said, I think at the heart of all of it, a lot of that, but I mean, he has kind of, I think, dealt with a lot of that trauma, especially when he met Eastman, but I still do believe it's there. But maybe there's something else that, maybe it has something to do with something he did in these 8 years that we're just not aware of. I don't know. The fact is, he says something he can make mostly can't, but there's still being some level of him being able to make it right, makes me think like, no, it must be a situation of something that happened in these 8 years. Either way, I'm excited to see where the next episode ends up taking us with all of this. I saw a tiny bit of the preview for the next episode, and we had the reunion between June and Madison, who haven't seen each other in many, 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 many years, which I can only assume, because it's like, it wasn't her the name she used back then, Naomi? Wasn't that the name she used when she met Madison and them? So Madison might be like, Naomi? It's like, oh, hey, I didn't know you were still alive. No, it's June, so that might be the case. We'll ultimately have to wait to see. I can't wait for that conversation, because it has to play out like that, because Madison only knows her, because we didn't find out about her real name being June until after all of that. So after everyone already knew that, like, thought that Madison was gone. So I'm trying to remember, does Madison even know about her losing her daughter? I think they know about that. I could be mistaken. It's obviously, once again, that was a season 4 thing, so it's been a hot minute. So I might be misremembering. But it's definitely going to be interesting to see where all of this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and good